All right. Well, happy 4th of July, everybody. Welcome to my place. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm really excited. I have a great show lined up for you guys tonight, guys and gals. And I can't believe this is show number 15 and that we've been doing this for all these months, but it's been a blast. I like to think I'm getting a little better at it, and with your help and your support, it has brought us to this juncture with our time together. I'd like to thank those people who have been so supportive over these weeks and months, people that have returned to see the show time and again and have been so generous in their contributions and donations. I really appreciate it. And of course, the new people that are here for the first time, I welcome you. It's a pleasure to come into your living room. It's an honor, especially on such an auspicious occasion. I mean, my gosh, this is, a friend of mine said, this is one of the only 4th of Julys that fall on a Saturday, and which means it won't be another 7 years till we have another. That's what somebody told me, and I have no reason to doubt. Another 7 years until we have another Saturday in the Park, 4th of July. Anyway, as I was saying, welcome to the show. I am delighted to be here and to be able to tell my stories for you. And I've got a lot of great stories. Oh my gosh, great songs. And before we go too far into the show, would you please hit that share button up there and get the show going out to all our friends and your friends and my friends, and tell a friend about the show. Call them up, bring them up, tell them there's going to be a great show going on right now at Billy's place. And there's also a PayPal link and a Venmo link for those of you who are so inclined. You know, my shows are free. They've all been free. But if you are so inclined and would like to show some support for me in these ongoing efforts in these shows, I wouldn't mind at all if you send in something in support of the show, either through PayPal or Venmo. And as always, a portion of the proceeds goes to MusiCares, which is a musician-related foundation that's affiliated with the Recording Academy. So a portion of the proceeds that you send in, I always send to MusiCares, helping musicians in times of need. Anyway, I have so much to talk about. I got to get going here. Visit my website, billyhinsche.com. That's BILLYHINSCHE.com for photos and links to DVDs that I made over the years, and their trailers you can watch. They're free. Everything there is for you to see. There's a way to, if you need music lessons, piano or guitar, I can do that for you or your friends or your kids or whomever you like. There's all kinds of great information at my website. And I can't believe that it was 35 years ago today that I was in Washington, D.C. doing this huge show with the Beach Boys on the 4th of July. And I'm going to tell you all about that. That's the whole nature of this show. There's a lot of material to cover. I have a couple of people I want to thank. John Cowsill for doing a fantastic PSA for me that I just put up on my Facebook page last night. You can go see it. He's such a dear boy and fine musician, of course, and a great friend for many years. I want to thank him for doing that. Also, I got some great information from people who were there on site that day, and it helped to flesh out my story. And so I need to thank Jeff Foskett, Jerry Beckley from America, Dewey Bunnell from America, Danny Hutton, Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night. They all chimed in and either called me or texted me, and Jerry Beckley called me from Australia to give me this fantastic story I'm going to tell you about in a little while. Also a special hello and special thanks to a couple of old schoolmates of mine who, through the wonders of technology and Facebook and this and that, we've reconnected. Greg Hirschalt being one of them, one of a handful of people I can count on one hand that I've known since my kindergarten years, if you can believe. Beverly Hills Catholic Good Shepherd. So Greg, hello there if you're out there. I hope you are, and thank you for your support of my show. And another guy, Bobby Weiner. Well, formerly Bobby Weiner, currently Robert Weiner. Oh man, we've been classmates through grammar school, and what a great guy. He lives down there in Newport Beach now with his family, and has been a very, very solid supporter of my show. So Robert, great to have you here, and thank you so much. My fabulous graphic artist, Valerie Samadas. Valerie is so talented, and she does all the wonderful graphics that you've seen lately on my Facebook page. I have a correction to make. I did a big oops last week in the Anne Margaret segment. We're talking about Murderers Row, and I forgot to mention the small fact that she was considered the female Elvis Presley, not a small fact at all, and that they did Viva Las Vegas together, a great movie, and I live in Vegas, so, you know, right on, Viva Las Vegas. But she sang the lead to this song, which I forgot to play. Bye, bye, birdie, we're gonna miss you so. Bye, bye, birdie, why'd you have to go? Why'd you have to go? So, making up for last week. Sorry about that, folks. I've added a Q&A segment to the show. And let's get started because there's so much show to do. Soprano Tony asks, sort of on a melancholy note, hey Billy, since this was one of the boys' first major appearances after Dennis's passing, what was the mood like from the principals? I'm thinking it had to have been pretty tough. Well, I would say that, speaking for myself, it was very different without Dennis. You know, he has only been gone for 6 months when we did this 4th of July show, so personally speaking, it was a big, huge loss for me, and, you know, it just wasn't the same looking up and not seeing him on the drum kit, you know. It was a huge loss, but he's always going to be there in spirit, always going to be on stage in spirit with us. And I can't speak for the other guys, but I will answer your question for myself. Lawrence Cohn, my buddy from Beverly Hills, asked, describe a typical day on the road. Well, I don't think there is a typical day on the road. There's so many factors involved, but it's not all sunglasses and limousines, I'll tell you that much. It's very routine, much of it, and the joy of a day on the road is the performance. It's, you know, you might think of it as that's the job, but really the job is the getting there, and the stress and the strain and the difficult situations one might get into. So there really isn't a typical day on the road. Well, looks like I got a call coming in. Would you excuse me for a moment, please? Hello? Hey, how you doing? Okay, well listen, I'm in the middle of a show. Do you mind if I put you on speaker? Okay. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right, everybody. This is my dear friend, Mike Kowalski, the wonderful drummer for the Beach Boys. He was there that day 35 years ago in Washington, D.C. And Mike, you feel like saying hello to the nice folks that are watching?
Well, I want to just let them know, and of course they know, it's so cool to hear you play the piano and the guitar and that great singing voice that you have, and singing all those hits from all those super artists. And gosh, Bill, your stories from the road they were the best. We had so much fun. Do you agree?
I totally agree, and people are writing in and saying, "Hey, Mike," and "Hey, you know, all these wonderful things." And thank you so much for calling in and saying hi to the folks. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure that the folks watching do too. So I'm going to say goodbye. I love you, and I'll talk to you real soon. And watch the rest of my show, okay?
Oh, you know I will. Thanks, Bill. And I just want to also say that playing those songs on stage, that we had so much fun. I mean, they were the greatest songs. I can't say anything more about that. I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, Mike. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye. What a great surprise from one of my best friends, Mike Kowalski. Wow. He is one of the veterans of the Beach Boys, along with, oh gosh, the great Ed Carter. And boy, oh boy, I tell you, always great to hear from Mike Kowalski. Where was I? Oh yeah, I got another question here from Scott Rhodes. He's one of my music students up there in Orem, Utah. Him and his wife Mary. Hi kids. They're really not kids. One of my favorite opening acts for a Beach Boys show was probably Jon Stewart. Who were some of yours? Well, without hesitation, I would say the Everly Brothers. Seeing the Everly Brothers on a number of tours was, wow, that was a dream come true. Talk about dream, 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 dream. I want to thank everybody for all the birthday wishes. I had a birthday just the other day on June 29th. Thank you very much. And so many people wrote in and wished me happy birthday, and I really appreciate that, and I mean that sincerely. And I want to say a special happy birthday greeting to Connie Barber. Happy birthday, Connie. You know, or maybe you don't know, but your husband Art secretly contacted me and asked me to wish you a happy birthday, so I'm happy to do that. Well, I'm going to have to sing a little song here, so I'm going to take a little sip of my drink. If you just excuse me. It's pretty hot here in Vegas, so I need to stay hydrated is the word. So my house drink is always iced tea. It's cold brew iced tea, by the way. Cold brew iced tea, Pellegrino, lemonade, and a nice lemon wedge. So here's to your good health. You know, I was in New York City not too long ago, and I got in the cab, and I told the cabbie, take me to St. Patty's. I wanted to go to St. Patrick's, and he said, okay. So I get in the cab, and he's driving around, and you know, I know we should have been there a long time ago. I said, you know, where the heck is this guy going? Finally, he stops in front of this church, and he says, well, here we are. And I said, that's not St. Patty's. And he said, no, it's All Saints Church. You'll find him in there somewhere. Hello, my friends. It's good to see you again. Yes, it's been a few years since I've been away, but I'm happy to say I'm doing okay myself. I can dig what's happening every day. There is something new, and hey, good things are coming my way. So tell me, how have you been? There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we laugh and say, hey, hey, man, you're okay. Let's take it nice and easy now. Let's get on back into that groove. Stick around for a couple of days, cause hey, good things are coming my way. Tell me, how have you been? There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we laugh and say, hey, 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 life, okay. Let's take it nice and easy now. Well, it's a brand new year. Lots of things are happening, hey, hey. Good things are coming my way. How about that? I don't think that Randy Bachman would mind that I borrowed signature riff from his song. Anyway, I got to tell you about this 4th of July show. Wow, incredible. Now, you know, as Jerry Beckley pointed out to me, this show was on the heels of that whole 1983 James Watt fracas about the wrong element coming to play at the Washington Mall, and then we played for the Reagans and the Kennedys at the White House. I addressed this whole event a couple of shows ago. I think it was show number 13. So anyway, when the Beach Boys were invited back to play at the mall, it was a big deal. And so the turnout was even more spectacular than in previous years. Excuse me. And, you know, there are different estimates, 500,000, 800,000, a million people. I don't know. It's probably written down somewhere. And, you know, it was put together by Mike Love. He really spearheaded it. And American Airlines was one of the sponsors. And, you know, I got to salute Mike. He really did a great job in contacting people. And I got to say, Jerry Beckley told me a very funny story, the way it worked out for them. So Mike calls Jerry and, you know, he says, say, you know, would you like to do the 4th of July show with us and, you know, be part of this big, fantastic celebration with Three Dog Night and Ringo Starr and Julio Iglesias? And Jerry says, well, look, you know, Mike, we've already got a big paying gig in Casper, Wyoming. Of course, any 4th of July, America is going to be in demand, you know, on Army bases or what have you, anywhere because of their name. Hello, America, 4th of July. So Mike had a great idea. He says, well, say, maybe you could get a Lear jet or some kind of charter. And you could fly out to D.C. and then make it to your gig at Casper, Wyoming in time. I'll put you on first. I'll put you right at the top of the show, and then you can make the gigs. So Jerry thought about it, and you know what? Sure enough, he came up with a private jet, you know, a Lear jet. And this on July 3rd, America, the group, they got in the jet out of L.A., flew to, they had to go halfway across the country to refuel because in those days the Lear jets didn't have the range that they do today. So they stopped somewhere in the Midwest. He thought maybe it was Topeka, Kansas. And there were a lot of other, you know, folks with private jets at this. We call it the FBO, Flight Base of Operations. Butler Aviation was one of the big ones. They had FBOs all over the country, and the Beach Boys flew into plenty of Butler Aviation's places to stop, refuel, you know, use the facilities. So anyway, there were some country acts that were also there at the time. Jerry noticed. So he goes to the men's room. He's in a stall. He hears the door open from the outside, and he hears somebody walk in. And it's at the sink, and all of a sudden he hears this noise. Pshh, and he smells, and he reckons, oh, well, that's like hairspray. He's hearing somebody, pshh, hairspray. Somebody's putting hairspray on their head, and he's like, okay, whatever. And then he hears somebody else walk in. Another guy walks in, and the first guy says to the second guy, hey, man, do you want a hit off of this? Second guy says, sure. You know, it's not like they're smoking marijuana or anything. They're using hairspray, you know. Pshh. He hears the sound again. And so when Jerry's telling me this story, from Australia he called me, he says, oh, church, he was trying to remember who it was, what country star it was. It was an older country star, not one of the new age guys, and I was trying to help him out. I thought, well, I don't know, Conway Twitty? I mean, Conway certainly would qualify for hairspray, right? By the way, I know Michael Twitty well. Michael, how are you? Great people, the Twitties. Anyway, and Jerry says, no, not Conway. And I said, I don't know, maybe it was Whispering Bill Anderson? And he said, no, not Bill Anderson. And I said, well, I give up. And then he realized who it was. George Jones. It was George Jones, the great George Jones. That's who was in there using the hairspray. So anyway, America does the gig. You know, they show up on the 3rd, check in, do the gig on the 4th, get out of there, chopper out of there. Jerry said that they were looking at this incredible scene of the people in attendance. He estimated 800,000, but who really knows. They made it back to their private jet, flew across country, stopped to get fuel, went on to Casper, Wyoming, did the 4th of July, second show, 4th of July, did that show, and they figured, well, why stop now? They jumped in the jet, flew back to LA, Jerry says he got home before midnight. It was basically a quick 24-hour run. He gets into the bed, and his wife says, "So, how was your day?" Yeah. Anyway, it was quite a day, as you can imagine. I'm going to take another little sip because I got a little bit more singing to do. And in the famous words of Socrates, who once said, I believe it was his final words, good hemlock. Not great hemlock, but good hemlock. All right. So, well, on the show, the new edition, young guys out of Boston, had a couple of hits, Candy Girl, and you know, young Bobby Brown was in the new edition. I remember Hank Williams Jr. I had breakfast next to him the day of the show. He had a beautiful girlfriend or wife sitting breakfast with him, and I didn't really know him well enough to say hello, but he was there. He was a wild man on stage, excellent entertainer. I mean, all-out performer. So he was a good call to have on the show. And then, of course, we had the mighty OJs. OJs originally from Cleveland, but then they based pretty much out of Philly, and they came out and rocked it real good. Money, 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 honey. Money, 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 honey. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. And then people all over the world join hands, start a love train. And people all over the world join hands, start a love train, The next stop we make will be England. Tell all the folks in Russia and China too, don't you miss this train at the station. If you miss it, I feel sorry for you. People all over the world join hands, start a love train, yeah. People all over the world join hands, start a love train. And they had, you know, great hits, Backstabbers and Used to Be My Girl, and they were just great. I don't know how Mike did it, but he got Julio Iglesias to come on board with the show. You know, he was the great Spanish balladeer, romantic balladeer singer, nicest guy, just a sweetheart. We did this show with him in DC, and then a few, you know, I don't know, a year or so later, we did another show with him in Acapulco for a big, like, Telemundo event down in Mexico, and he did a couple of familiar songs that I'm going to play for you now. He did a duet with the Beach Boys, Air That I Breathe. You remember that Holly song? All I need is the air that I breathe, and to love you. All I need is the air that I breathe, and to love you. To all the girls I've loved before, who travel in and out my door, I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before, to all the girls I ever knew, to all the girls that helped me through. this song to all the girls I knew, to all the girls I loved before who let Willie in, who traveled in and out my door. I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I loved before. Hey, listen, if it's good enough for Ernest Tubb and Jimmy Rogers, it's good enough for me. Thanks! I don't know what's gotten into me today. You know, speaking of all the girls I've loved before, there was a gal last night, she was banging on my door for 45 minutes. Yep, I finally let her out. Anyway, LaToya Jackson was also there, and she was a sweetheart. I remember being backstage in one of the trailers with her, and she was just as cute as can be, and her father, Joe Jackson, was also there. Somebody came in with some contracts, like some release forms that we had to sign in order to, well, to be in this TV special that they were doing. So I sort of kiddingly got the release form. I said, you know, I don't sign nothing, you know, don't sign nothing. And Joe Jackson picks up on this, right? And he was like, yeah, right, yeah, don't sign nothing, don't sign nothing. He's telling LaToya. I think ultimately she had to sign it because it was, you know, it was a waiver. She had to do it. So anyway, funny stuff. Also on the show were, well, they were special guests from the Moody Blues, Justin Hayward and John Lodge. Super nice guys. The Moody's opened for the Beach Boys quite a few times over the years. Nights in white satin, never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. Guilty I always seem, with his eyes before. Just what the truth is, I can't say anymore, 'cause I love you. Yes, I love you. Oh, I love you. Wow, what a monster hit that was. Anyway, I told you all about America and all that. Dewey Bunnell, the other fellow in the group America, founding member, dear friends for forever, Jerry and Dewey, and actually all the guys in the band. They love the Beach Boys. We met them in England when the Beach Boys were there in the early 70s, and you know, the Beach Boys just thought they were fantastic. And I think America opened for the Beach Boys more than any group, maybe ever. They opened so many times, and deservedly so. And I always got to sit in on the last couple of songs of their set, Sister Golden Hair and Horse with No Name. Anyway, they had so many hits. Dewey recalls that I'm going to quote him, it was the biggest show that we had ever played. And Carl let him borrow his acoustic guitar for their set, because I think it was probably one of those things that America's equipment was already in Casper waiting, and so, you know, they didn't have everything with them because the Learjet can only accommodate so much passengers and so much luggage. Anyway, Dewey remembers that, which sounds just like Carl, loaning him his acoustic guitar so that they could do their show. Anyway, they had so many darn hits, and Dewey remembers it was such an interesting backstage with all those artists and friends like you and the Beach Boys and Three Dog Night and Ringo. I mean, so many hits. Tin Men, Ventura Highway, which is, they told me that somebody thought that it was Bench on a Highway, you know, famous misheard lyrics. No, Ventura Highway, Sandman, Sister Golden Hair, Magic, Woman Tonight. But here's a couple that I particularly like. We used to laugh, we used to cry, we used to bow our heads and wonder why. But now you're gone, I'll have to carry on and make the best of what you left for me. Left to me, I need you, like the flower needs the rain, you know I need you. Guess I'll start it all again, you know I need you. I need you, I need you, like the winter needs the spring, you know I need you. Guess I'll start it all again, you know I need you, I need you. So don't cross the river if you can't swim the tide. Don't go denying living on the other side all your life. This is for all the lonely people, thinking that life has passed them by. Don't give up until you drink from the silver cup, ride that highway in the sky. This is for all the lonely people, thinking that love has left them dry. Don't give up until you drink from the silver cup. You never know until you try. Because I've been to the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. To the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the lights. But there were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I saw was a fly with no buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry and the air was full of sound. I said I've been to the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, for there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La 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 la. Sing with me. La 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 la. There ain't no one for to give you no pain. Now, I don't know exactly if that is grammatically correct. I don't know whether Mr. Valenti at Loyola High School, my sophomore English class, would approve. I think that might be a triple negative there, Dewey. Dewey wrote that song. What a smash. So, let's see. Perhaps you might try, there is no one that will hurt you. Instead of, there ain't no one for to give you no pain. I'm kidding. It's a great song. It's a great song. Leave it. Don't change a thing. You know, horse with no name. I was at a Chinese restaurant the other night. I had some horse with lo mein. Delicious. It's an acquired taste. Speaking of horses, I was at the track the other day at Del Mar, and I bet a horse at 3-1. Came in at 230. I think it started from the kneeling position. Yeah, Well, moving right along, I got to tell you about Danny Hutton. Where do I begin? I love Danny. He's like one of my idols. I just think he's incredible. I first met Danny on the set of one of these shows that Dino Desi and I did. It was either, 9th Street West, Lloyd Thaxton, or Sam Riddle's show, and he had a mustache and wore sandals then, and he played guitar. He had a couple of big hits, Roses and Rainbows and Funny How Love Can Be. Maybe you remember those songs. I mean, they were big hits, at least locally, certainly in LA, and he was an artist in his own right. And I just thought he was fantastic, and it turns out he became a really good friend of Brian Wilson's. He currently lives up in Laurel Canyon. He lives in Alice Cooper's old home. He's been there for many years. But when I met him at Brian, when I met him again after these TV shows, was up at Brian Wilson's home on Laurel Way, not Laurel Canyon, Laurel Way in Beverly Hills. And I always associate Brian Wilson, Danny Hutton, Van Dyke Parks. They were the three musketeers of music to me. They were all brilliant, all funny, all great guys, real good people, and I just always think of those three together, and wonderful memories of them. And Danny's girlfriend at the time was an actress named June Fairchild, a beautiful young woman, and she was in the Cheech and Chong movie Up in Smoke. Perhaps you remember her. So, I spoke with Danny about the thing, the big event in Washington, D.C. He remembers it as it being a sea of people, and that it was. But I got to tell you a little bit about the group that he put together, which was originally called Redwood. Well, you know what? Brian Wilson named the group Redwood. I spoke with Chuck Negron just today. Chuck's been a friend for years. All of them have been a friend for years. And I said to Chuck, I feel like I was right there with you when you first started, and I watched you guys come up, and I really did. Brian Wilson loved Danny Hutton, and vice versa. So, Brian wanted to help Danny, and so Danny put these three incredible singers together. Corey Welch, Chuck Negron, and himself. I mean, each one of them was a powerhouse vocalist. I mean, they were incredible. And then they harmonized. Their blend was fantastic. And I'm here to tell you, to hear them sing up close and personal was really something. It was powerful and exciting. They had great stage presence. They always looked great on stage. They always had great, very conscious of their wardrobe, which I appreciated. And I saw them play at the Forum, and they came out in these outlandish outfits, and they were just at the top of their game, and they were fantastic. It was sort of shades of what Kiss would be later, with the really spectacular stage production, and their band was just tight as can be. And Danny was an Irishman. He had dual citizenship, as a matter of fact. And he's just a funny, great guy. I had so many great times with him. He had a great sense for music, Danny did. And he knew a good hook when he heard one, He knew a musical hook when he heard one. And, all these Three Dog Night songs had so many great hooks that they're so memorable. You almost wait for them in the course of the song. Danny was good at that. I'm referring to my notes here. This is an iPad, so instead of having a guy standing there with cue cards or a gal, I've got my iPad, so forgive me. I did so much research on this show, and I do on all my shows, that I don't want to leave out any detail, because I've gone to some great lengths to bring you the most complete show in my vast research, and so I don't want to miss anything. I got a funny, hang on a second. I got a funny Dennis Wilson story for you. So, as I was saying, Brian was working with Danny, and Brian was spending a lot of time at Danny's house up in Laurel Canyon. He was on that little street that paralleled Laurel Canyon. It was a little tiny street, and up the street from there, Van Dyke Parks was on Happy Lane. Van Dyke Parks lived really close to Danny. Anyway, I would spend time with Danny there. He was just a blast. You know, oftentimes after the Rainbow Bar and Grill, we'd go over to Danny's house. He had the best sound system anywhere. He had a whole sound room with a great turntable and the speakers, and he'd play back, you know, Three Dog Night demos or, you know, latest hits of the day. He was responsible in part for bringing Elton John to the States. I think he had a hand in Elton being at the Troubadour for his big debut. Yeah, Danny was hip to Elton long before most of us were. So, as I said, he had a keen sense of music, and he knew a hit when he heard one. Let me just tell you, oh, the Dennis Wilson story. So anyway, Danny hears this knocking on his gate outside his door one morning, and you know, it was Dennis. He could see through the closed circuit that it was Dennis, and Dennis was like not in a good mood, you could tell. And so he's pounding on Danny's door, and Danny decides he's going to sneak out the back, sneak out the side, get into his garage, and go and try to push his. He had a gull-wing Mercedes-Benz sports car. Maybe some of you aficionados out there will know what I'm talking about. A very rare car, especially these days. Anyway, so Danny gets in his gull-wing, and he's just trying to ease it out of the garage. He doesn't start it, but he's like pushing it out, and all of a sudden, here comes Dennis. Uh-oh, you know, where's Brian? He was looking for Brian, because Brian, you know, he had, you know, gone missing, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. And so Danny's like, Dennis, I don't know where he is. Well, Dennis reaches in the window, and it doesn't just take the key out of the ignition. He pulls the entire ignition out from its housing, you know, wires hanging out. This is a story that Danny told me. Oh my gosh! So that was a Dennis story for you. I know you have a lot of people out there who like Dennis, love Dennis. And that story always cracks me up. Anyway, getting back to Three Dog Night, Brian put together this incredible group of people, and I mean, Chuck Negron was telling me, I mean, I couldn't, he says, I can't believe I'm working with Brian Wilson. He says, I was living in my car, you know, and, you know, Danny gets a hold of Corey, and Chuck thought Corey was the greatest singer in the world. And Corey at the time very well may have been, but Chuck was no slouch either. I mean, my gosh, the hits that they had were unbelievable, one after another after another. But, and Danny was the guy, Chuck said, that knew everybody in LA, that could open the doors for them. And that's what he did, not to mention guiding the group. And, excuse me, the first song that they were working on with Brian was called Time to Get Alone, which ended up with the Beach Boys. But there is a version out there, it was cut in 1967. Chuck said that one day they go to Wally Heider's studio, and Brian had called in the LA Philharmonic Strings. They were like, what? To play on Time to Get Alone, which ended up with the Beach Boys. I look at you, baby, and what do I see? I see love in your eyes. Time to get alone, to get alone, just be together, be alone together. I know you Beach Boy fans know that, and you know it well. Anyway, they just, things didn't work out with Brian, let's put it that way, and they went on to great heights. They were supposed to be the very first group on Brother Records label, but it just didn't work out. And I always thought that Brian wrote Darlin' for Danny. Well, he did, because Danny Hutton always used to say Darlin' this and Darlin' that, and so he wrote Darlin', but Three Dog Night never, or Redwood, take your pick, never actually sang on it. That ended up with the Beach Boys as well. Anyway, they had hit after hit. I'm going to sing a bunch of them for you right now, so I got to take another little sip. Here's to your good health. I mean, you know, Eli's Coming, Easy to Be Hard, Black and White, Out in the Country, One-Man Band, The Show Must Go On. So many great hits. I mean, their show was incredible. Even if you see them today, they have so many darn hits. Here's a couple of my favorites. away my troubles, wash away my pain with the rain in Shambhala. Wash away my troubles, wash away my shame on the road to Shambhala. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh, yeah, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. I can tell my sisters by the flowers in her eyes on the road to Shambhala. I can tell my brothers by the flowers in his eyes on the road to Shambhala. Everyone is peaceful, everyone is kind on the road to Shambhala. Everyone is helpful, everyone is so kind on the road to Shambhala. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I've never been to Spain, but I kinda like the music. Say the ladies are insane now, and they sure know how to use it. They don't abuse it, never gonna lose it. I can't refuse it. Well, I've never been to England, but I kinda like the Beatles. Well, I headed for Las Vegas, only made it out to Needles. Can you feel it? Must be real. It feels so good. Well, I've never been to heaven, but I've been to Oklahoma. Well, they tell me I was born there, but I really don't remember. In Oklahoma or Arizona, what does it matter? What does it matter? This tired city is somebody's dream. Billboard horizons as black as they seem. Four-level highway across the land, building a home for the family man. Do-do-do, 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 do-do-do. I got a funny story. So I'm in Hawaii. It's the Beach Boys' 25th anniversary over there in Hawaii. You may recall Three Dog Night was on the show and Ray Charles. Anyway, I'm at a restaurant. I think it was the Black Orchid, though Jeff Foskett thinks it's John Dominique's. But anyway, Danny Hutton's there with his wife Lori, and so we go over to visit. And I go, Danny, I saw the show today, and your performance, it was just great. And Foskett goes, well, Billy does an impression of you. Billy, why don't you do that impression of Danny? So I go like this. Okay, I go like, this tired city is somebody's dream. Billboard horizons as black as they seem. And Danny looks up at me and says, did I really look that bad? Anyway, I got a few more to play for you, just because I love these songs. Just an old-fashioned love song playing on the radio, and wrapped around the music is the sound of someone saying that they'll never go. You swear you've heard it before as it slowly rambles on. No need in bringing them back, 'cause they're never really gone. Just an old-fashioned love just an old-fashioned love song coming down in 3-part harmony. What's this whiskey in your water, and sugar in your tea? What's all these crazy questions you're asking me? This is the craziest party that could ever be. Don't turn on the lights, I don't want to see. Mama told me not to come. Mama told me not to come. She said that ain't no way to have fun, sir. Open up the window, let some air into this room. I think I'm almost choking from the smell of stale perfume. And that cigarette you're smoking, it scares me half to death. Open up the window and let me catch my breath. Mama told me not to come. Mama told me not to come. She said that ain't no way to have fun. Celebrate, celebrate, dance to the music. 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 Number that you'll ever do. Two could be as bad as one. It's the loneliest number since the number one. No is the saddest experience you'll ever know. You'll ever know. One is the loneliest number. Oh, it's worse than two. One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. Joy to the world. Oh, was a good friend of mine. I never understood a single word he said, but I helped him drink his wine. I said he always signs a mighty fine wine. Joy to the world, everybody sing. All the boys and girls now, come on. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. One more time with me. Joy to the world, that's right. All the boys and girls. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. All right. Joy to the fishes. Is fishes, here we go with the grammar again. Isn't the plural of fish fish? Is fish a word? Well, your English majors out there, would you look that up and let me know? Anyway, as far as the show goes, Danny Hutton remembers that Harry Nilsson was there. Of course, Harry wrote the song "One" for them, and you know, Harry was John Lennon's favorite artist at the time. You can see why Harry was so brilliant and lyrically and everything. Danny also remembers Terry Southern being at the show in DC. Terry was a novelist and a satirist and an absurdist with a really keen sensibility for dialogue. I looked him up in my vast research. He wrote the dialogue for Dr. Strangelove, The Loved One, which is a dark comedy, actually one of Carl Wilson's favorite movies. Go look it up in your Internet Movie Database. He wrote for the Cincinnati Kid. You remember Candy and the Magic Christian? Ringo was in both, if I'm not mistaken. So it makes sense that they're all together at the show backstage, having a good old time. Those were the old drinking days, which I know for Ringo are long behind him, and for me, they're long behind me. But back then, hey, anything goes, right? So when I did meet Ringo, again, because I had met him at Jeannie Martin's house at that party that I spoke of in one of my earlier shows, you know, where John Lennon and David Bowie and Elton and Kiki D and May Pangborn. Anyway, so when I said hello to Ringo, I said, you know, it's been a long time. We met many years ago at Jeannie Martin's. He says, that was a long time ago. You like my Ringo impression? Right up there with my Jimmy Stewart and my Ronald Reagan, right? And now my Willie Nelson. Look out. It was a thrill to hang out with him. He's just a wonderful man, and you know, love him. He's a Beatle. What can you say? Anyway, the Beach Boys set was California Girls, Little Deuce Coupe, Come Go With Me, a song Al Jardine liked to do called Buzz, Buzz, Buzz. Carl was doing Rockin' All Over the World. Then LaToya comes out. Julio comes out and sings the bridge of Surfer Girl. We could ride, surf together, while our love would grow. He's always so relaxed. Have you noticed that about him? Always like touching himself. So relaxed. There's got to be a reason for that. And Mike Love could not wait to introduce Ringo. And I got a great story. When Mike called Ringo to ask him to be a part of this spectacular show, he's going on, and you know, Mike's over here going, so what do you say, Ringo? Do you think you could do the show? And Ringo's like, well, how do I know it's really you, Mike? And Mike goes, well, East Coast girls are hip. I'll do the show, Mike. That's definitely you. True story. And that's how Ringo solidified that it was actually Mike Love on the other line. And anyway, Mike was just chomping at the bit to introduce Ringo, and he did. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from London, England, and the crowd goes nuts. And for some wacky reason, and at some point in the festivities, Ringo comes up with the microphone and says, I've always wanted to play with these boys. It was so great. Anyway, for some wacky reason, that we were having sound difficulties on stage at that show, and so Jeff Foskett, who is a major Beatle fan, which would be putting it mildly, massive would be more like it. He has got no chutzpah to break into well, there's something that cause you pain, and then Ringo starts again, I'm gonna let you can't do that, and I'm standing there going, I cannot believe this is happening. And then, as if that weren't enough, Foskett launches into Ringo's right there, right? Unbelievable. Finally, the sound came up and everything was fine and dandy, but there was a moment of close call, let's say. When the backdrop, there was this whole big thing behind Ringo, this sign that, I don't know, the wind caught it or something, but it fell, and it came dangerously close to falling on him. You know, a lot of this stuff is on YouTube, that you can see all of this show. Don't go there now. Don't. Stay here with me. Anyway, finally, Ringo is you know, playing along with us. The remainder of the set was Justin Hayward comes out. We did USSR. We did USSR with Ringo. I got a Carl Wilson story for you. So Carl's in the Capitol Tower building in LA. That's at Vine near Hollywood. And he's in the elevator. The elevator door opens. George Harrison walks in. Door closes. And they had met before. And George says to Carl, I hope you don't mind, but we've just done a song that's very much like the Beach Boys, hope you don't mind. And Carl went, no, George, of course not. Well, the song was USSR. I mean, I think it's fairly well known that Mike Love had suggested to Paul McCartney in Rishikesh, India, when they were meditating there with Maharishi, that he, include some cities and towns in Russia, a la California Girls. So the story goes. And that's why it all sounds very Beach Boy-like. Flew in from Miami Beach, we only see. Didn't get to bed last night. On the way, the paper bag was on my knee. Man, it was a dreadful flight. I'm back in the USSR. You know how lucky you are, boy. Back in the USSR. Anyway, that was a blast. Can you imagine? I'm playing guitar, by the way, because Brian's at this show and he's on piano. Anyway, can you imagine being on stage and looking up and there's Ringo Starr playing the drums on Back in the USSR? What a trip. And Justin Hayward and John Lodge come out and they stick around for good vibes, and Rhonda and fun, fun, fun. And Carl does a special dedication to Dennis because we were missing him. Anyway, then, as if this weren't enough, and I'm going long, real long tonight, folks, hope you don't mind, but it's the 4th of July, so let's stick around for a few more minutes, and I'm going to wrap this up. Now I got to tell you the rest of the story. How can you leave now? So, now after the show, we all jump in vehicles and head to the airport, get on a charter Braniff airplane, jet, I don't know what it was, 727, I don't know. And we fly, this is with Ringo, Three Dog Night, America's Already Gone to Casper, the Beach Boys, and I'm sitting on my aisle seat, starboard side, and I look up the aisle, and there's Ringo on the aisle seat there. And it's like, wow, I'm on a flight now with Ringo. It's unbelievable. Three Dog Night behind me. So we're heading down to Miami, which is what Barbara Bach, how she pronounces it, that's Ringo's wife. And we're heading down to Miami, and we were running late. Gee, surprise, surprise. These big festivals, they generally run a little bit late, but we were running real late. So we got the word that President Reagan, God love him, he cleared the airspace for us. He had the FAA, or ground control, clear the airspace so that our jet could power through and land in maybe Hollywood, Florida. So thank you, Mr. President, once again. And Jeff Foskett remembers on our way to the venue, to the beach where we were going to play, there were about 10 big tow trucks in front of our entourage, our motorcade. And their job was to just tow cars that were parked illegally, blocking us, just hook them up, tow them out of the way so that we could keep pushing through, hook them up, tow them. It was awesome. So, excuse me, that's when I like to say, shadow security was created. And shadow security is my way of saying Jeff Foskett was on Ringo like white on rice. Everywhere Ringo went, there was Foskett following him along just like a little puppy dog, asking him so many Beatle questions. So funny. So funny that years later, Foskett runs into Barbara Bach and I think Ringo. Hey, do you remember me? I was with the Beach Boys, and she was like, oh yeah, I won't forget you. Pretty funny. So anyway, we do the gig on the beach to a paltry 100,000 people or so. You know what, I'm gonna have a little cough drop here, I hope you don't mind. And afterwards we go to our hotel, which was the Dovel, the Hotel Dovel. And Jeff Foskett remembers Ringo walks into the lobby, pauses, looks around, and says, I think I played here in the 60s. And of course Foskett is about to blow a gasket when he hears this, because that was the second Ed Sullivan show the Beatles had done. It was right there, I guess in the ballroom. Anyway, Mike Love and Ringo and Jeff, they go up to the penthouse. There's a bar up there, and supposedly there was sort of the remnants of the Fifth Dimension group there. You know, there was no Marilyn McCoo or Billy Davis Jr. And Mike Loves, he's one of the guys in the group, sort of the rotund fellow, and he recognizes them from Dorsey High, where Mike went to high school. He was the janitor at Dorsey High at one point. So go figure, now he's in the fifth dimension. Anyway, after all that, we go to Ringo's room, his suite, of course, for a birthday celebration, because it being the 4th of July, Ringo's birthday is the 7th of July. So we all went over there and sang happy birthday. There was a cake, and you know, not that many people, the Beach Boys, and some of the housekeeping, they were taking pictures, and Ringo was finally, all right, that's enough of that, all right, you can leave now, you know. And so the housekeeping had to split because they had their share of photos and autographs. And Ringo was with his right-hand man, Hillary, I remember his name, his aide-de-camp, I believe is his business manager now, for many years. Anyway, what a day. What a day. What a 4th of July, 1984, 35 years ago, 84, excuse me, 36 years ago. Incredible. I've reached the end of the show. I can't believe it. I have one more question here from Erwin Benz, who asks, did Ringo do any practice with you guys before that show? And the answer is no. He's a Beatle. He doesn't need any practice. Right, Erwin? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my show. It was a big show. God love you. Thank you for always being here with me. And it's an honor to come into your living rooms and spend this special occasion with you. And if you like the show, if you want to see me doing more of these, do send something via PayPal or Venmo. It'll help me keep the lights on and the home fires burning, and a portion of the proceeds is going to go to MusiCares to help musicians in need. And I'll leave you with this song, as I always do. Positivity every day. Positivity in every way. Positivity is what I need. Positivity, yes indeed. Positivity throughout the day. Positivity, that's what I say. Positivity is my friend. Positivity through thick and thin. Come on now. Positivity is good for my soul. Positivity for young and old. Positivity for everyone. Positivity, we've just begun. All right, let's stay positive, everybody. Thank you once again for being here. And I'll see you next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise. And I wish only all the great things that life has to bring you. Good night.